Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back for episode 3 of Learn with Mr. Lewis. So thanks for being here. Appreciate having you. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Let's get into this. So I am going to answer a question that I have answered many times over the years. And that question is, why? Why did you become a teacher? Well, the obvious reason is I had no chance of being successful at anything else. That is wrong. Why did I become a teacher? Well, I guess we have to go back to junior high. And when I was in junior high school, I had a teacher who was a social studies teacher. And I wouldn't say he was the best teacher I ever had. He was fine. He was in his first year of teaching, but he was in his 60s. Okay, his first year of teaching, which, wow, teaching junior high for the first time in your 60s. I mean, to me, it looked like he was in his 80s because that's how everyone looks to you when you're in junior high school. Anyway, so I remember him telling us about this. He had had his whole career, if I remember right, I think he was an engineer or something like that. And then when he retired from that, he decided he wanted to teach. And so that's what he was doing. And I don't even know if he lasted past that. That was my last year of junior high, and he may have quit after a year, which I wouldn't have blamed him. But anyway, it sort of put a spark in my mind, a thought of, gosh, that would be a great thing to do. Make a whole bunch of money doing something else that maybe I don't enjoy that much. And then I could become a teacher, because I feel like teaching is something I've always enjoyed, and it's something that kind of in the back of my mind I had always wanted to do. I just remember thinking, how am I going to support a family doing this? How would I ever be able to convince a lovely young woman to spend her life with me on a teacher's salary? And how was I going to get a Ferrari? Because I really wanted one. Those were all problems with the going right into teaching plan. So my thought was, make the big bucks doing something else, retire young, and then teach, because teaching is just fun. You know, it's not even hard work. That was my not smart brain at that point. So I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, although I never really thought that would happen. And I initially attended a school known as Dixie College. It's changed its name a few times since then, in St. George, Utah. Now it's known as Utah Tech University. But anyway, I went there and I studied marketing, and I was really good at it, and I really enjoyed it, and I was doing really well in all of my classes, and I was getting close to graduating with my associate's degree in marketing. And I also happened to be engaged at that time, and of course my lovely bride-to-be was, I'm sure, excited at all of the big bucks that I was going to make in marketing. You know, it was going to be great. And I had already applied to and gotten accepted at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And I was excited about that. And that's where I was going to go once I had finished my associates, which was coming up soon. And I was looking at the course list and looking at the possible classes I would be taking and all of those sorts of things. And it just did not seem all that exciting to me. And at that time, I was taking a world history class at Dixie that I did not need to take. That was a class for fun, because that's the kind of person I am. There's nothing more fun than taking a world history class. So that's what I was doing as one of my extra classes. I just needed to fill out my schedule. I had all the credits I needed. I was filling out the schedule, and I absolutely was loving this class so much. So then I thought, you know what, let me look at the course catalog for somebody who's majoring in, something different, like, humanities or history. What kind of classes do you get to take? And every class seemed like a joy to me. And so I started to think, you know what, maybe I need to shift. Maybe as I transfer up to BYU, maybe I should just do this teaching thing. So I went and I had a conversation, of course, first of all, with my fiance. And surprisingly, she did not leave me on the spot. She said something that I will always appreciate. She said, you know what, whatever makes you happy, I will support you. Now that was a mistake. She's regretted it ever since. I don't know if she's regretted more the marrying me part or allowing me to change majors. I don't know. But that's why I became a teacher, I guess. I just love it. I love history. I had great teachers that taught me history and humanities, so I majored in humanities with a history teaching emphasis. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't regret it. There have certainly been struggles and downsides to this career, but obviously now with Teachers Pay Teachers, that's all turning around, folks. That is turning around. I'm going to be making those big bucks just on the late end of life. Probably not, but I have been able to make a little bit of money. It's been encouraging, and so I'm excited about that. But I really, my career as a teacher, I won't say I've loved every minute of it, but I have met wonderful people, and I know I've had an impact on people, and I wouldn't change it. I definitely wouldn't change it. Okay, so there's a little bit about my experiences and why I became a teacher. Now we're going to move into this day in history, and I've been told by the boss. Those of you who know me well know who the boss is. The boss has told me that I am only allowed to do one event per day. So that was painful, to limit myself to one event per day when I'm choosing between like 20, 25 events per day. So I did manage to get myself to one event per day. So let's start with Monday, September 11th. And of course, the event that we're going to go with there is the year 2001, when Al-Qaeda terrorists attacked the United States of America. Just a quick thing about that. That was my first year teaching. And what a way to start my teaching career, just a few weeks into the school year. And I don't know if I even did a good job of trying to help kids through that. And maybe part of the reason why it was hard is I was trying to navigate my own way through all of that. But I have something that I've been doing for a number of years now, which is I have students interview someone who lived through September 11th and remembers it. And I think that that's an excellent activity to do with students of really any age. Especially upper elementary through high school. And if you're interested, I do have a product of a 9/11 interview form that you can find on my Teachers Pay Teachers page. But those September 11th attacks are something that I will never forget. There's only been one other time in my life that I've had those same sorts of feelings that I had in that day and in the subsequent days, and that would be the COVID pandemic, where you just felt like the future was so unsure and so uncertain. And that's the only other time in my life that I felt that way to that extent, other than one personal experience in my life that maybe we'll talk about another time. All right, our next day is Tuesday, September 12th. And on Tuesday, September 12th, we had one of my all-time favorite events in history. This is John F. Kennedy's famous speech at Rice University. And I enjoy talking about this mostly because I enjoy impersonating JFK doing this speech. And I'm not going to say I have the whole 17-minute speech memorized, because I don't, but I do have some parts of it memorized. And I'm only going to share with you a snippet of that. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one that we intend to win. Thank you, thank you. Greatest JFK impersonation of all time, of course. But I love that, and I love saying we choose to go to the moon frequently with my students just to irritate them. It's a good time. Okay, next up, we have Wednesday, September 13th. Wednesday, September 13th. And the event for that is from 2021, but it's also kind of from 1587. Why is that? It's the Roanoke colony. And there has been a lot of new archaeological evidence that has been discovered in recent years. And in 2021, archaeologists started a series of digs where they found some new information. There's a great documentary, by the way, it's on HBO Max. I just watched it recently. I was excited to watch it. I was really nerding out. So if you ever want to really nerd out on some Roanoke stuff, which I've been fascinated with from the time I was a kid, what happened to this lost colony of Roanoke? You can check out that documentary. It came out in 2022, and I just recently watched it, like I said, just a couple of weeks ago. Good stuff. I love learning about the lost colony of Roanoke. It has always fascinated me. Okay, next, let's move on to Thursday, September 14th. And this is something that I never knew until I started making these Today in History PowerPoints, these activities with my students, and I would go through and find events, and I discovered this event from 1968, and that is the fact that Roy Orbison had a fire at his home while he was away. He was out of the country touring when this fire hit, and it killed 2 of his 3 sons. And I can't even imagine the pain of that for this great musician, but it certainly gave me a different perspective on him and on his life and on him as an artist and as a musician, because going through that sort of pain of losing your sons young, ages 10 and 6, I can't even imagine what that would be like. But obviously with my Spotify playlist on that day, you're gonna hear some great Roy Orbison music. One of the most unique figures as far as his voice and his style in the history of rock and roll music. And finally, we come up on Friday, September 15th. And on Friday, September 15th, this was on September 15th, 1935. That was when the Nuremberg laws were imposed by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. And the Nuremberg laws, this is where things start to shift. So in 1933, Hitler takes power. And for those first 2 years, there's some outward anti-Semitic stuff that he's doing, but it's nothing that's legal, nothing built into the actual system and government of Germany until the Nuremberg laws in 1935. And that's where things change. And the first law makes it so that no Jews are citizens any longer in Germany. They lose their citizenship. That also means that anybody who was working for the government who was of Jewish heritage lost their jobs. Okay, they lost their citizenship. The third law makes the swastika the national flag of Germany. But it's the second law that to me is the most insidious and upsetting. This is the law for the protection of German blood and German honor. And this outlaws marriage between Jews and Germanic people. And it also has the one part of this law that I think to me is the sneakiest and the dirtiest and the most terrible, almost because it's so subtle, is that no true German woman under the age of 45 is allowed to work in a Jewish household. And of course, the idea behind that is that, we don't want to taint German blood or German honor, because of course, there's probably going to be an inappropriate relationship there with the man of the house. This is, again, an insidious way to suggest that Jews are evil, Jews are vermin, Jews are terrible. So you can't even trust anyone who is able to still have children to work in a Jewish household. And that sneaky part of this law, to me, is maybe the most disgusting part, because it's planting in the minds of the German people this idea of anti-Semitism even more strongly. So there we are. We've made it through. Hopefully you learned a little something today and you enjoyed the video. Once again, if you did, please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you next week.